And I think as Africans, we needed to start learning from each other. What is good, we must uphold. What is evil, we must condemn. And this, for me, is a brilliant, brilliant idea. And you juxtapose it with what's happening in South Africa, Botswana, Mozambique, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, and of course the other Southern African countries. You begin to see a totally different picture where people are beginning to push each other out of borders, immigration issues, border control issues, stringent rules and regulations, more visas and more permits. And in the midst of all this conversation, you begin to see corruption coming into the space, bribing of immigration officers and stuff like that. And we don't have to glorify the colonial system in all its honesty, that these borders that we glorify are actually foreign borders altogether. They're not African borders. And this issue needs to start to be spoken at a high level of our political, conflicts. That how do you begin to separate a Tswana who is living in Mahikeng, in Mafikeng, with a Tswana that is living in Muchudi?
Okay, welcome again, fellow brothers and sisters in the continent and those who are in diaspora. This is Fact About Africa, the African channel where share thoughts and changing the narrative of Mother Africa. So today's video I want to share with you from our father Joshua Maponga when he's speaking about the unity of Africa, and he gives us a lot of examples that we Africans must look after before we taking any action, because he complaining about African to be foreigner in another African country.
We needed to start conversing this thing more honestly as Africans, so that we cannot glorify the colonial separation that the colonial masters have put on us. And I've said this 2-3 years ago. Maybe some of you might not have understood why I was saying what I was saying.
This happened there in South Africa, where South Africans are chasing their fellow Africans who are from the other side. So these borders kept not for our own interest, is for our colonial interest, because once we unite, everything will be hard to them and they will not survive, because their all lives, all their development depending on Africa. So Maponga said, Africa, you can't chase your fellow Africans.
I'm not saying there must be lawlessness, but I'm saying let us be practical in the way in which we think, so that we combine our efforts of unity around that. When a man who is in Muchudi wants to visit the Palanes that are in Rustenburg, do they need a passport to go and see their own uncle across the borders? We have all these fences, and we know that these were done by Afrikaners to make sure that they border control and they manage the movement of people. And they manage the movement of people. The South African issue is quite interesting, on the contrary, because you pick up the resources in South Africa, you need labor to work in the mines. Now, this is where some of my African political brothers miss it altogether.
We need one passport. We need one visa, because we can't achieve the agenda of our continent to be one if there's continuation of visas from one country to another country. So Africans, in order to develop our Africa, we need one passport. We need to share bank, we need to share military, we need to have a common currency also. This will help us to unite early and achieve our agendas.
There is no reason for us to begin to think that we can separate each other using cheap political gimmicks and fighting and beating each other. Here is Ndlovu in South Africa beating a show from Zimbabwe. You are beating your relative, for crying out loud. How can you begin to separate yourself if you actually understand our own connections as Africans? Kiva kwena, bana gushungo, the Ngwenyas and the Ngwenyas from Mozambique to Malawi, to Zambia, to South Africa, to Botswana, to Lesotho, to Swaziland. The Ngwenya people are there. It's one tribe. You are the Ngwenyas. which breaks away all the border control issues. Our culture must be a solution through which we can begin to deal with border control issues. We cannot be separated by white people constantly. And in the midst of telling Zimbabweans to go back to their country, Somalians, go back to their country, go to the Chinese people, go to the white people, go to the Afrikaners, and tell them to go back to their own country. And you say so. Some of us have married in the countries here. We have children in the country here. We are contributing to the infrastructure of the country here. We are also meaningful citizens who are adding value to the economy. And it cannot be right. It cannot be right, not by a Sunday, not by a Wednesday, not by a political party or a religious organization. People to fight and kill each other over a piece of wire that you put at a fence to protect people not to go to the other side of town. We need one passport. Not only one passport in East Africa, we need one passport South to Ethiopia, to South Africa, to Zambia. We need to start talking the free movement of the African people. That's how you build a great nation. See what America has done. 52 countries coming together, 52 states coming together, forming one state, one big state, the American dream. And here we are with the 52 leaders that cannot agree that we as Africans belong to Africa. We now back to colonial days where we are using the same immigration laws of restricting people movement around their own continent. China has united. Europe has united. Africa is still caught in petty politics. Petty politics. My country, my country. Do you have a country? Where is your continent? If this is your country, where is your continent? And we forget that our small African countries are part of the African continent. We need to start talking, how do we build a continent so that we can compete with Europe? We can compete with America. We can compete with India. We can compete with China. We can compete with Australia. The same resources the colonialists are coming to get in Africa, if we unite together and we can put our skills together, intellectual skills together, we can build an economy that is solid, which can compete pound for pound, yen for yen, euro for euro, with an African dollar. And if we can put our army together, we stop putting armies on borders, put armies at the sea, put armies at the airports, protect the continent. The continent is bigger than your country. And I want to say something that is very interesting. If you want to know the value of the African child, those of you who have done mathematics and those of you who have done actuarial science, I will repeat this again. I said it on one of the programs a few months ago. You need to take all the grass that is in Africa. Give me the value of the grass. Take all the trees in Africa. Give me the value of the trees. Take all the water in Africa. Give me the value of the water. Take the air in Africa. Give me the value of the air. Take the minerals in Africa. Give me the value of that. Take the manpower in Africa. Give me the value of that. Add up all these values and variables together. Add all of them together. You'll have a big figure like this at the bottom. Divide that figure by the population of Africa. You will find the value of one African child. Do you know your value as Africans? What are you? What's your value as an African? What is your value as an African? And by the way, when we unite as a continent, your value as countries will increase greatly, because the resources in Congo, the resources in Nigeria, the resources in Zimbabwe, the resources in South Africa will even improve the values of countries that don't have as much resources as they are. There is value in us coming together as a continent. And we divide our resources, the population that we have on the continent. That becomes a solution. For that reason, we need one African economy. Put our resources together, benchmark our currency. We need one army to protect Africans from those that are outside of Africa. Number 3, we need one passport to allow the free movement of Africans amongst each other. Free movement of Africans amongst each other. Free movement of goods and services. And listen to me, South Africa, very carefully. When you close the border between Zimbabwe and South Africa, the resources that people are coming to buy here, when they can move freely between Zimbabwe and South Africa, you won't have as many people coming here to come and buy the goods, because we can also buy them in our country. But with border control issues, you tend to restrict the value and the products and services that are found across the border. That's why people are running here to come and buy TVs, to come and buy radios, to come and buy fertilizers and etc. But if we can reduce our export duty border control issues and allow goods to move between Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Congo, they will not have to drive to Durban to come and pick up goods from there, because goods can move to Kenya, goods can move to Zaire, goods can move to Zimbabwe, and people can access these services close to their doors. Don't take it for granted. People who are traveling are not enjoying themselves. They are suffering because they are looking for resources, and those resources are locked by the governments who close borders and refuse goods to move freely between countries. People are coming to collect goods. Lift up the borders, and people will not come to South Africa here to come and be harassed in the country. We can buy the same goods in our own countries. Therefore, border control becomes an inhibitive factor of imports and exports, results in illegal movement of countries, because people are trying to access resources which you as a government are locking because you're closing the borders. Open up the borders. Let people move. Those who want to stay, stay. Those who want to buy and go back can go back. And I can guarantee you that if we can relax our export and our border control issues, people will come here, buy what they want, and they go back home. Even as I'm here as a Zimbabwean, I don't want to die in South Africa. I'm going back home to die in my own country. I cannot die here as a foreigner in the context of that I'm an illegal immigrant. I'll die in Africa, but I'd rather make money and go back to my own people, back home to my village, and enjoy money with my own people, do my own dances, and enjoy my life also, as you are enjoying your life in your own countries. Borders are a limiting factor to the development of Africa. Import and export duty, border control issues are destroying the African economy. Restrictive laws and police wasting money on armies and soldiers and police to patrol borders. Useless money that we are spending. Valuable resources can be used for that kind of money. Relax the border controls, throw away local passports, give us an African passport through which we can move freely on the continent. And we will not come to your country unless there is something we want to buy from your country, unless I value that I can add to your country, unless there are skills that I need in your country. We don't come here to be poaching and running around and stealing. Yes, there are some who are stealing. Some of us are not thieves at all. We're here because we are adding value. We're adding value. And we're getting paid for it. Relax the border control issues and allow people to move freely and buy the goods where they want them. And by so doing, Africa can begin to move freely from Madagascar to the Atlantic Ocean, from Egypt to Cairo, and around Africa. Let people begin to do business. Those that want to learn about oil can go to Sudan and Nigeria, even if they're South Africans. Those that want to learn about cocoa can go where the countries are producing cocoa. Those that want to learn about tourism can go to Kenya and learn about tourism. And by the way, congratulations, South Africa, for uniting the South African Airways with the Kenya Airways to begin to build a Pan-African airline. Pan-African airline. And I hope that Rwanda is listening. And I hope that Zambia is listening. I hope that Zimbabwe is listening. I hope that Botswana is listening. Stop idolizing your 2, 3, 4 aeroplanes that are parked at your airport. Take those aeroplanes, put them in a pool. Let's develop one big Pan-African airline so that we can patronize our own airspace and allow our people to move freely, to do business. Transport and communication are key. Politics is an enabler to creating that environment that is conducive. And I'm happy to have spent a few moments with you here as we discuss the African problems. Let us continue to have this conversation. It will not stop. And by the way, some of our West enemies are not European enemies, are our own African brothers and sisters. You can even see from the comments that are coming up here. You don't need to become part of this page if you don't intend to become part of the development of Africa. So don't torture yourself coming to Farmers of Thought page with your small little neo-colonial mindset. We are here to develop a continent, not develop small little-minded people. Let's think together. Let's work together. Let's put our act together as Africans. Allow for one economy. Allow for one army. Number 3, allow for one passport for the African people. With those few words, I thank you and I hope to see you again. Share the videos with your presidents, share your videos with your politicians, share the video with your business partners, share the videos with your children. Let us begin to change the way we talk and the way we do business. Africa is for Africans. Enjoy yourselves. Have yourself a wonderful day.